So it says in the Psalms, with those who are sincere, the Lord is direct, but with those who try to deceive our Lord, the Lord is himself astute. So as long as we're not trying to outsmart our Lord by taking advantage of his promises, he does encourage us to do these practices and that's why he gives us the promise. That if we do it in the Spirit, he gives it to us, he will grant us this grace of final perseverance. So it's not a small thing. And unfortunately, the practice is not well known in the church. This is certainly not a controversial part. None of Fatima to me is controversial, but for those who think about the consecration of Russia, or the rise of Russia, or the prophecy that the whole world will be enslaved, for some people that may be hard to swallow. It's what Our Lady has told us. But the message of the 5 first Saturdays is something it's a message of the heart. It's a message which can only uplift, and anyone should not find it hard to either believe or practice. And it is an appeal, both from the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, to have pity on the Blessed Virgin, that you can console her, that you personally, not the person beside you, but you yourself, can console her. And that by your simple acts of devotion, that they make a difference. The Blessed Virgin is offended by blasphemies and ingratitude. And Sister Lucy asked why there would, for 5 first Saturdays, why not 9 like the 9 first Fridays, or why not 7 like the 7 sorrows, for the 7 sorrows of Our Lady? Our Lord answered, and he said, because of the 5 major sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Our Lord then enumerated these 5 major sins. He said, this is in reparation for sins, those who blaspheme the Blessed Virgin in her Immaculate Conception, for those who blaspheme the Blessed Virgin in her perpetual virginity, those who blaspheme the Blessed Virgin in her prerogative and privilege of being truly the Mother of God, those who blaspheme the Blessed Virgin by seeking to take away from the hearts of children devotion to their mother. And finally, those who offend Our Lady, who blaspheme her and attack her in her sacred statues and images. And so Our Lady is offended. And just as if someone were to slap your face or to say an unkind word to you, especially if it wasn't deserved, that would hurt you. And it would hurt you even more if it came from a friend. However, if some other friend saw this happen to you, went up to you and gave you a little gift, said a kind word to you, tried to console you by some gesture, although there would still be the pain of the first act of the offense, the second act nevertheless would give you some consolation, that at least someone liked you, that someone saw the injustice of what was done to you, that someone was trying to make you feel better. And this is what reparation is about. That even though other people hate and blaspheme or simply are ungrateful to the Blessed Virgin, we at least can console her. And that by making these little acts of reparation, she is consoled. And a way that pleases her especially is the acts of the communions of reparation on the first Saturday of the month. And so we can then understand our Lord's concern. I'd like to tell you a little story about before the apparition or around the time of the apparition. Lucy was in Pontevedra. She was the postulant, so she had the job of emptying the garbage. So one morning she was out, and I've been in Pontevedra a number of times, and there's a stairway outside It comes down from the second floor where Lucy was carrying the garbage down from. She got to the courtyard, and through the gate out to the street came a young boy, about 10 or so. And Lucy, who had this vocation, and from Fatima, our Lady said to her on June 13th, 1917, that she was to stay on earth sometime longer to promote devotion to the Immaculate Heart. And so she talked to this little boy, and she asked him if he knew how to pray the Hail Mary, and he said yes. And she asked him to pray the Hail Mary, but he wouldn't do it. But she prayed the Hail Mary with him, and he would pray it with her, but he'd never say it by himself. And since she was busy after trying to catechize one of the village boys about devotion to Our Lady, she asked the boy, "Do you know where the Church of St. Mary Major is?" Not far from Pontevedra in the city, in the old city, about 5 minutes walk from the convent, is a church known as St. Mary Major. It's been there since the year about 1000 AD. And the boy said, "Yes, I know where it is." He said, Lucy said, "Well, go up there and ask the Blessed Virgin to put Jesus into your heart." And the boy said, "Yes, I'll do that." And off he walked. So that was around December, at the same time of the apparition of December 10th, whether it was before or afterwards, Sister Lucy doesn't remember. On February 15th, 1926, just 2 months and 5 days later, Lucy was again out in the courtyard, and she was emptying the garbage. A very prosaic occupation. And this same little boy seemed to walk in from the street, through the courtyard gates, which were open. And she recognized him, and she said, "Did you do what I told you? Did you go to the Church of St. Mary Major and ask the Blessed Virgin to put Jesus into your heart?" And before her eyes, this little boy was transformed. And then she recognized him as being Jesus. And he said to her, "And you, have you done what the Blessed Mother asked you to do? Have you promoted the devotion of the 5 first Saturdays?" So here it is, just 2 months and 5 days later, and the Blessed Virgin, the child Jesus comes back, and this time he refers to the Blessed Virgin as my mother, that is, the mother of Jesus. "What have you done to promote devotion to the Immaculate Heart of my mother?" And so the Sister Lucy had not been idle, but as far as our Lord was concerned, it really wasn't enough.